Hey, good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you on my walk today. You can see behind me that autumn is definitely in the air, that some of the leaves are already changing. Super cool. So I want to talk about computer vision syndrome and dry eye. So how many people that are listening to this or watching this are on a digital device during the day? Probably just about everybody. And if you are on a digital device, I can tell you that eventually you're going to suffer some kind of visual strain, eye fatigue, burning eyes, because the computer screen, if we just talk about that for a second, requires you to focus your eyes in one position for long periods of time. And anytime you make repetitive movements with your eyes, eventually that's going to create a breakdown in your visual system. On top of that, in terms of the ergonomics where you work, computers tend to dry out all the mucous membranes, including the cornea. And so this is going to lead to possibly the cornea drying out and starting to give you dry eye syndrome, where you're not producing enough tears to cover the cornea. Now, it's also very interesting that if you're under any stress, what begins to happen is your adrenals begin to overwork, and this puts you into what we call the sympathetic nervous system, and this is actually going to also dry your eyes out, and there's a systemic and endocrine reason why that's occurring. So, if you are on any of these digital devices, some things that you can do to help yourself would be, well, number one, you want to make sure to eliminate the glare coming off the screen. Number two, you want to be aware of your posture. If you're sitting in a chair where you're slumping over or tensing your neck or shoulders, that actually is going to eventually affect your eye muscles and create a focusing problem. And then number three is the lighting in the room, to make sure you've got some indirect light on, but that it isn't completely dark, or on the other hand, that it's too bright. I think that it's also very important that if you wear a prescription, that you get a prescription that is a single vision lens for your digital device and not use bifocals or trifocals, because that forces you to focus your eyes through a very tiny window. And the tinier the window, the more you narrow your vision, that's going to also create visual stress. So remember the 20-20-20 rule. Take a 20-second break where you look at 20 feet, and you do that every 20 minutes. That's a good practice to do throughout the day. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the trail. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. Please send your comments to me. I'd love to hear from you.